Greetings! Here is Fred, your favorite Italian streamer and content creator publishing content in broken English here on YouTube. And today I'm here to start talking about Victoria 3, a strategic game developed by Paradox Interactive and expected to be released in the upcoming months. If you know my channel, you already know that I focus my content mainly around Crusader Kings 3, another game by Paradox Interactive. But as soon as this game is released, you can expect Victoria 3 runs as well. This is the reason why I've decided to start a new series in preparation for the official launch of the game. There is no need to say then that if you're interested in Victoria 3 or in general in real-time strategy games, I will definitely recommend you subscribe to my channel. In this video I've tried to summarize all the Victoria 3 fundamentals to help you prepare for your first campaign on this long-awaited sequel. The game presents more similarities with Europa Universalis, another game by Paradox, but as my channel is mainly focused on Crusader Kings, I will often draw comparison between these two, CK and Victoria. And I will not be able to show actual gameplay as the game is still currently under development. But the screenshots that were published by the developers can help us understand the look and feel of the game experience. And yes, I could have also used the footage from the previous title of this series, but I believe that the user interface of Victoria 2 is exactly what scared most players, so I better focus on something fresh and easier to digest. Let's start from the basics. Unlike Crusader Kings 3, in the Victoria series we do not manage a dynasty but a country. And the game covers a much shorter period of time that goes from the 1836 to the 1936, so 100 years. Because of this shorter time window, time progresses on an hourly basis rather than on a daily cadences like it was, for example, on Crusader Kings. Also, as the game focuses significantly on politics and demographics, most of the decisions revolve around the segments of the population that are part of a country, the so-called pops. These pops are divided into different profession types, such as officers, academics, capitalists, clerks, etc. And they all have their related demographic data, such as size, culture, religion, standard of living, etc. The game mechanics are governed by a few, so to say, currencies that need to be farmed and spent wisely in the course of the game. Similarly to what we do in the hand in Crusader Kings with gold, prestige, piety and renown. These are the main currencies in Victoria 3. First of all, treasury, the easiest to understand as it regulates the financial component of the game. It mainly consists of revenues and expenses. If you are free of debt, over time you will also be able to pile up gold reserves, but if you are in deficit and with no gold left, well, then you will end up in debt. Important note, public debt in Victoria is not inherently wrong. As long as you are able to pay your loans back, it is fine to go in debt if you are, let's say, investing in your economy. Then we have bureaucracy. This unit represents the country's ability to govern and collect taxes. It is generated with government/administration buildings which hire clerks and needs to be consumed to create and maintain the institutions that help running the country, such as the school system, the health system, police, social security, and many others. We do also have authority, which represents the ability of the head of state to enforce power on the population, making the society more or less authoritarian and also impacting the rate at which laws can be passed. Finally, we have influence, which is basically the diplomatic currency of the game, like prestige in Crusader Kings. It mainly depends on the rank of the country, and the rank depends on how good the country performs, for example, as an economic or military power, and it supports all the diplomatic actions of the game, such as improving relations, alliances, and the so-called diplomatic plays. Now that we have a better understanding of what currencies we have to monitor to weigh our decision wisely, let's talk about the main focus areas of the game. Let's start from the economy, probably the most complex pillar of the game, as in the Victoria series this covers not only the internal development of the country, but also the trade opportunities within a market. Similarly to other games, to develop a country one has to use buildings. They can be either private or government owned, and the economic policies can be used to shift from a dirigist model to a capitalist one, and vice versa. Buildings employ POPs and consume some input goods in order to produce certain other outputs based on the production method they adopt, and there are a variety of them in the game. Goods can be material or intangible, like services, and they serve different purposes. There are goods that can be consumed by POPs, such as grain, groceries, luxury products. Then there are industrial goods needed for the production, such as steel, coal, etc. And also military goods, like ammunition, tanks, airplanes. Infrastructures play a fundamental role in Victoria as they define the capability of a country of moving around goods. Infrastructures can be defined by the geographical feature of a country, let's think of rivers for example, but can and should be developed as well, and this is for example the case for railway. After all, this is all about the Victorian age, right? The goods that are produced serve the domestic market, but are also traded within other countries in the same sphere of influence. All goods have a base price, but the market price will then be adjusted based on supply and demand for that specific good. Now let's talk about politics. The core of a society is given by its laws, as they impact a variety of aspects, from power, for example monarchy or republic, to trade, education, healthcare, and even human rights. Because let's not forget that we are in a period of time where slavery and child labor are still quite common. And as already mentioned, laws enable institutions, which are needed to shape the country in the long run. But institutions at the same time also contribute to the formation and strengthening of groups of interest, such as church, military, trade unions, etc. Also, political movement has to enact, preserve or restore a law, and can be radicalized by those popes who are dissatisfied with the standard of living, or simply because they were unearthed for too long. And if you come from Crusader kings at this point, you're probably thinking of something similar to factions and peasants' revolt. Coming to diplomacy, there are a number of factors in Victoria 3 that contribute to the prestige of a country, and all countries, as already mentioned, are ranked consequently. The higher the rank, the better it is, as this expands the diplomatic possibilities of that country, signing pacts, the number of action in a diplomatic play, etc. Also, relations with other nations can improve or worsen over time, as well as the infamy, which represent the opinion of the international community towards a specific country. Think of it like dread in Crusader Kings, but working exactly in the opposite way. In Crusader Kings, dread discourages the other from going against your ruler, while in Victoria 3, being infamous will make your country a target. Basically, you piss off everyone to the point that everyone wants to take you down. I think Putin can relate to this. Finally, warfare, the continuation of diplomacy. And when it comes to war, Victoria 3 seems to differ from everything we might have seen before. Based on what the developer shared, you will no longer move units on the map deciding who is attacking first and where, but rather focus on the managerial aspect of war, the generals you picked, the action you took in preparation of the war, the availability of war industries, or the import of weapons, and go on. This is brave and original, if not even a revolutionary approach, but of course it will disappoint all the strategy players who are mainly into micromanaging military tactics. On the other hand, I think it might free possibilities for new styles of play, and it might fit well a game like Victoria that in a certain way feels more like a managerial game rather than a strategy game in the more traditional sense. Hard to judge if this will truly work or not, but at least it seems we will not have to wait for long to find it out, as the game is expected to be released in the upcoming months. As said, if you're interested in Victoria 3 content, I will then advise you to subscribe to the channel, as more content will come in the following weeks. For today I will say on the other hand that that's all, but stay tuned. Cheers!